Eva Wu, and I have my co-lead of the project, Katie Greniers from GSK. We're in the group of, we're chemists actually, so we don't know a lot of programming. So if there's any question related on the ontology data model, please talk to Wolfgang later. So like I said, we are chemists in the product design and developability group at GSK in Upper Merion in Philadelphia area. So in our group, we mostly just do using automation equipment to generate high throughput screening data, mostly solubility workflow, but also false stack and polymorph and soft screen reaction optimization, so forth. So, but then because more than half of our studies are on solubility, so that's why we try to pick on one workflow and focus on that and try to put it into ADF format. So, so for the next 10, 15 minutes, I was just going to go through why our group needs ADF, and then the current state, what we have, just give you some background of our solubility, automated solubility workflow, and then our Allotrope project overview that has like deliverables and also next steps. So why we need ADF? The problem for us is at GSK we have different groups have different systems. They want to use their own system for everyone, but it didn't work out that way. So at the end, actually for our automation equipment, we use Unchained Lab instrumentation, which we actually has their own layer database that can collect all the data and then have a software suite to like sending, making report and such like something like that. But at the end, when we work with our collaborators from candidate selection, from discovery team to like drug development, late phase drug development team, we still have to pull out the data and put it in the Excel and send an email to them. So it's not very convenient. So then we're trying to find a more standardized way and long-term storage of the data. And we find, actually we have another group that lead by James Roberts at GSK that do working on project with Allotrope, like I think since a couple of years ago. So we find that maybe Allotrope is the solution that we can go forward, and we're trying to assess that if this is what we want to do in the future. So just give you a overview of our lab, the automation lab at our screening center. So we have, like I said, we have two instruments. We actually have other instruments like Hamilton, and there's some more Unchained Lab equipment, but there's like two, sorry, going wrong way. But then we have two instruments that call Core Module 3 that is configured with like balance and then different heater stir module. And then there's also powder dispense arm and the liquid dispense arm that you can do organic solvent or even like viscous material and the slurry suspension as well. And they also have an arm to do like pH measurement. So this is a standard solubility workflow that we do in our lab. We use, there's a few manual steps where we're doing right now. We design our experiment using the Unchained Lab software library studio. So it's either 24 or 96 wells. And then we have to load the API and the solvent on the DAC. And then once we have the recipe from library studio, it just dispense the powder, dispense the solvent or buffers, and then it's set up to control temperature or stir rate for certain hours that you specify in the recipe. And then we can do like a heated or room temperature filtration, and whatever is left in the filtrate, then we can run it for LC analysis. The filtrate itself can also run a pH analysis for the biorelevant media study. And then solid lab behind, we can also run Raman and also XRPD. And this is just library design that we generate using the Unchained Lab Library Studio software. So it just gives you a feeling that we usually run a play with 96 sample, and then we just add like different API on the play, and then different solvent and different solvent composition in the well as well. Then go to the project timeline. So we did this project actually starting late last year, December 2016, that we first have a scoping workshop with Unchained Lab and also Office. We have all the key stakeholders in the meeting for 2 days, have people that are already working on the Outlook project like James Roberts in the meeting, also people from Unchained Lab and Office. So we try to define scope. What is the scope? What are we trying to get out from this project? And also setting the objective, timely objectives, like when things should be done. Then it's actually take a couple months to get the project signed. We have existing collaboration with Office. So that contract is pretty straightforward. It's just more like when we get new vendor trying to do something new, then it takes some time to initiate the project. But once we have a meeting at March 2017, we only take like 3 months to have Office to build the data model and ontology, and then for Unchained Lab to create ADF adapter to generate the ADF file that include the solubility experiment. And then by June, so I think we take maybe around 3 months to have these things deliver, including data model, ontology, and then Unchained Lab give the LIA to ADF converter to us at the end of June. And then, now that we have the ADF files, we're still trying to evaluate what kind of viewers we should use, and then try to see how we link the high-throughput ADF data to the Agilent. I mean, we use Agilent for the LC, so try to see how to link it back to the real LC data in ADF format. So just trying to give you the view of so we have the ADF data file, and then we try to open it in the ADF Explorer. So this is a circle that from that one ADF, we have 96 samples. So then each sample has its own library ID, well number, composition, what kind of API, what kind of solvent you put in, solubility result, and also pH. The pH measurement, like I said before, is done by the CM3 that we have in the lab. And then delivery 2 is from Unchained Lab that they generate Excel add-in to convert the LIA data into ADF file. So once we click this, this is the Excel add-in. Once we click this button, we enter the library ID, and then it will have a list of experiments we have for that library, and then you just select the ones that you need, and then export to an ADF file. The reason we don't want, we want to keep it more manual step at this point, because sometimes user can generate 10, 20 experiments that they don't really know what to do with it. So we don't want to make it automated yet. There is a plan. If we can find a more streamlined way to do this, I'm pretty sure that we can work with Unchained Lab to make it more automated in this step. So then that's another view of the ADF file that we have, like using the ADF Explorer. So the data cubes here, there's 96 different data cubes, and then for each folder, there is a chromatogram. So that is what we can see so far using the ADF Explorer. I'm not sure we can actually see the number, the solubility number, or the composition using that. So that's why, so this is not happening yet, but this is our wish list using Spotfire to these ADF data, solubility data. The reason is Spotfire is more like a universal for GSK users. It can link to multiple databases, and then we can also, once we pull in the ADF data, we can manipulate within Spotfire to do different plot, customized plots. So we don't have to make a standardized report because there will be all these like variation when you're doing experiments. So we want to keep it the customized part for the users. And actually, like Spotfire, you can probably generate a couple templates for different solubility studies. And also we can connect to the different chemical library, and get like physical chemical properties. So, okay, so I think this is the second last slide. So our step is we have ADF converter from Unchained Lab. We have the data model ontology that was created by Office. So it should be available for people to test and review. We even have the ADF files that we generate. So if anyone wants to see how to open one ADF file for multiple solubility experiments, you're welcome to try. And then we want to, our next step is first we want to find how to connect open the ADF into either Spotfire or something really universal software that people can use, most people at GSK were willing to use. And then, and we also want to see if we can join in some working group. For example, we can create an automation working group, for example, just to explore new workflow, because we do solubility that is maybe 50% of our workflow, of our throughput, but there's still other screening out there that we can try to implement with ADF. And then, of course, like we only have LC and pH data right now, so in the future, hopefully we can link Raman, XLD, and other different types of analytical data. And then the last slide, I want to thank nobody really from Unchained Lab, but still thank them for making the timeline so fast, like get it done within our expected time frame. Jonathan, Russell, and then Office, of course, Wolfgang and Helg, and then GSK, James Roberts, and also Violet, which is in the audience.